Hi, it's so nice to see you here. I'm Shen. I'm assistant professor of special education here at SUNYPotsdam. So I'd like to first thank you so much for this great opportunity for me to be here and talk with you about how to support our struggling writers' writing performance. So let me first ask you a quick question. Have you ever thought about the important role that writing has played in our daily life? You probably say yes for sure, because every day we engage in a lot of writing, right? So we text our family a lot, or we text our friends. And we also write a lot of emails to other people on a daily basis. In addition, we need to do a very good job in the schools for writing across different kind of genres like stories or novels or poems or exploratory essays, persuasive essays, etc. And we also need to do a great job so as to succeed in the standardized testing, which need a lot of writing. So lastly, we also need to do a very good job with writing the promotion letter, write a good resume so as to succeed in the job market. So based on all these, you will find that writing has really played a such critical or important role in our daily life, right? Um, while for most of you guys, you probably think, well, this is pretty simple, but this is not really the case for our struggling writers, especially those with disabilities. So today, let's talk about how we can do, or what we can do, and how we can support our struggling writers and how to improve their writing performance. So first thing first, let's look at what the writers writing performance look like according to our researchers. So the research has found that compared to the typically developing students, our writers who struggle with writing usually compose way shorter essays compared to those students who do not have or disabilities or struggle with writing, and they have limited writing knowledge. For example, they know limited information about different genres, such as the stories, a poem, or expository essays, persuasive essays, etc. And they have limited knowledge about different writing processes, such as the planning, composing, editing, and revising. And they also struggle with understanding what kind of strategies or when and how to use appropriate strategies to help facilitate their writing. In addition, their writing convention errors has been enormous in their writing performances. For example, you may see or find a lot of errors in spelling or grammar or punctuation or capitalization, etc. in their writing pieces. And lastly, their vocab has been found to be very poor also. So all these has contributed to their overall writing quality that has been very poor. So here you can see in the screen that this is an example coming from my dissertation project, for which I collected data on the pre and post test for the students who experience language-based learning disabilities. And this student named Sarah, so she was asked to write a compare contrast essay on two fast food restaurants, and she decided to compare and contrast Wendy's versus McDonald's. So what she has done here is she basically came up with only three sentences, even she was given a total of 40 minutes. And I can tell you that actually she only spent about 5 to 8 minutes. And once I told her that, well, you still have, plenty of time. Maybe you want to go ahead and try to write more and do a better job. And she simply says, well, this is the best I can do. I don't want to do more about it. I'm done. So here basically is what she came up with for her writing. But there were only three sentences here. And you can see that it's not really organized. Looks like it's just whatever come into her mind and she just wrote it down, right? And in addition, she had quite some capitalization errors as well as spelling errors. And also, it's very limited. We only have three sentences, so it's very short. So you can see from this real life example that how much struggle that students really has experienced with writing. So as writers or well as educators, what we always trying to figure out is what we can do to improve our students' writer's identity and how to improve their writing performance. So here, I would like to talk with you about an evidence-based instructional framework. It's called Self-Regulated Strategy Development, or SRSD. So SRSD has been developed by Dr. Steve Graham and Dr. Carol Harris from Arizona State University. So SRSD has incorporated two components. One is to teach the students how to conduct a proper writing strategies. And the second is to teach the students how to engage and use self-regulation skills. So let me talk with you about each briefly and also give you some examples. So first, let's talk about the writing strategies. Researchers have found different kinds of writing strategies can help our students write across different genres, such as expository essays or persuasive essays or stories, etc. And among all these different kind of approaches, I would like to talk with you about something that has been found really helpful, which is called graphic organizer. So you can see here in the slide that in the middle, we ask the students to help organize their the ideas and information they generated into this graphic organizer. And under onwards, oh, by the way, here I'm teaching the students how to plan and generate and organize their ideas on the compare contrast essays. Here under onwards, the students learned to generate 3 superordinate categories, and then also generate some simple words or phrases to compare and contrast the similarities versus differences across their specific subordinate. So example here is, if a student is going to compare and contrast go on vacation for Christmas versus stay at home for Christmas, so the student can learn to write 3 superordinate category, which is expense, and second could be having fun, and third will be the planning time needed for either go on vacation for Christmas versus stay at home for Christmas. So for example, for the superordinate trait or category, expense as the first trait, the students can talk about similarities and put the first bullet point there saying, well, both go on vacation for Christmas and stay at home for Christmas, they both cost money, include the food, they're going to cover the drink or gift, etc. And then in terms of the differences, the students can compare and contrast and say, well, go on vacation, well, probably would expect to cost more, including the airfare, the dining out, the hotel fee, etc. While staying at home, usually I would expect to cost less because we're going to assume the normal spending on food and drink, and we don't need to spend extra costs for a place to live, such as a hotel fee, etc. So same thing, that the students can compare and contrast the similarities and differences around the second and third traits. And then at a later point, the students would be able to use information and ideas generated and organized, use this graphic organizer and put that into writing an actual piece later then. So you can see that this way enable the students to engage in effective planning processes. So next component is self-regulation skills. It's a very important skill for the student to help self-regulate and self-monitor their writing. However, unfortunately, most of our struggling writers, they don't really have such skills. So what we can do then, the first thing first is we can teach them how to set appropriate goals for their writing. So for example, the students can learn how to set appropriate goals for their writing, such as this time I want to write, say, 150 words for my story, and that is the quantitative goal. And then what about qualitative goal, if you have that question? So what we're going to do is we teach the students how to set the goals and say, well, I would like to write a paper that gonna score 8 out of 10 points in the scoring rubric. So this way, the students will learn how to set the goals both quantitatively and qualitatively. And at a later point, the students also learn to evaluate whether their writing goals have been met. So second part of the self-regulation skills is self-instruction. So this part is particularly important because this can help our students stay calm and try to deal with their frustration when they come across some difficulties in the writing. So instead of just simply give it up and say, okay, I don't want to do anything anymore. Instead of doing that, the self-instruction skills really help the student to stay calm and tell themselves and say, okay, now I think I'm getting stuck. So what should I do? That's okay. Don't be nervous. So I've done this part of the strategy step. So what should I do next? Okay, so next step is, okay, is blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and continue working on this part. I'll be okay. So self-instruction component really has been able to help our students come across the difficulties, and instead of giving up, just go ahead and continue and keep working on their pieces. So the third part is self-reinforcement. So it could be as simple as just saying good job to themselves or praise themselves for doing a great job, with their efforts and with their writer's performance. And lastly is a self-evaluation. Self-evaluation is very important to help build up our students' writing motivation. So I have a chart here that you can see. So researchers have been trying to use different kind of charts to engage our students in learning how to track their own or if their own progresses. So for example, they can use the screen scopes or rocket blocks. So if you can see here, researchers have used these two different kind of charts to indicate how many story elements that the students have included. So basically, the students just learn to track their own elements of the essays included in their essays. And then gradually, as the time goes on, the students will be able to directly look into the sheet and see their progress as the time goes on. And this turned out to be very motivating for our students. So do you still remember that earlier at this talk, I've shown you Sarah's performance during the pre-test on that compare-contrast essay on the Wendy's and McDonald's? Yes, you probably still remember that, right? During the pre-test, she only had 3 sentences and a lot of mechanical errors, etc. Now organization showing up there. So now, how about her performance after receiving 3 weeks planning instruction and 3 weeks revising instruction? I'm going to show you that here. So here it is. For this piece, Sarah was comparing the contrasting cats versus dogs as pets. And you probably noticed the first thing is that she included way more written text. So basically, the written length increased substantially. And then she also had generate a lot more ideas with organized with good organization. So she included at the very beginning, she included the reason what she talks about what she compares and contrasts and explains the reason why, so as to kind of hook the readers and make her piece look more interesting. And then she also included 3 superordinate categories, so as to discuss the similarities and the differences around each of the 3 traits. In addition, she included the conclusion at the very end of the piece and also indicate her own preferences. So you can see here, she has done really good job. I would say way better job. Well, it's not perfect though, but she's done a better job compared to the pretest. And she really have improved her performance for the compare contrast writing because of this writing intervention. Okay, so before we wrap up our talk today, There are a few more points I want to really point out for you guys. So first, we want to say that we need a lot of teacher modeling and guided practices for our struggling writers before asking them to practice by themselves. They do need a lot of teachers' help, teachers' models, and guided practices and practice with peers. So second would be, well, our struggling writers need a lot more writing opportunities so that they can write across different settings, different tasks, different environments. So they need a lot of practices. The last point is we want to provide choices to our students. We want writing to be a joyful experience for our students. We want our students to really think writing as a positive and fun experience. And all of these will be able to build a positive writer's identity for our struggling writers. So that's my talk. Thank you for listening, and I really enjoy talking with you.